Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Aimimo Design AD8169-2. This watch is available from Aimimo Design official store on AliExpress for €109. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this sterile black cardboard watch box. One removes the lid, and the watch sits inside on a padded pillow cushion, as you can see, which is upholstered with vinyl plastic. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use a basic cardboard watch box, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only €109. With the watch, one gets this owner's instruction manual. Although basic, it does suffice. It has clear, concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Pearl DG5833 GMT automatic. And lastly, one also gets this Aimimo Design branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Aimimo Design AD8169-2. The watch is clearly an homage to the Rolex GMT-Master 2. Aimimo Design produced the AD8169 in two versions, a Batman version with a blue and black ceramic bezel. Alternatively, this version with a full black ceramic bezel. Now, the thing to note is the Batman version doesn't have Lume on the bezel. This black ceramic bezel version, the 8169-2, is fully lumed with BGW9 Superluminova. So, similar proportions to the GMT-Master 2, we have a 40mm case diameter, we have a 47.4mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13.4mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the glide lock style clasp. The glide lock style clasp is sterile, it's unsigned. Personally, I would prefer to see it signed with the Aimimo Design brand logo, or alternatively the flip lock on the clasp engraved with the Aimimo Design emblem. But however, it is finished to a good standard. No sharp edges, no burrs, beautiful luster to the brush satin finish to the body of the clasp, and the flanks are polished to a flawless mirror finish. So, very unusual to get a glide lock style clasp at this price point, so I'll show you the interior of it. Mirror polished interior, solid mil 316L grade stainless steel, and the mirror polishing is flawless on the top side, underside and flanks. Hinge pins are a good tight fit, no extra play. And as I've detailed, this has a glide lock mechanism, and I think it's excellent to get a glide lock at only €109. And I'll just show you the interior of it. As you can see. Now, it's not as smooth as a Rolex glide lock, but of course one isn't going to expect that in a low tier piece at only €109, but it does work very well, and it articulates very well, and it snaps into position with a nice positive click. So Aimimo Design deserve full credit, because this is something that other low tier brands such as Pagani Design do not offer with their PD1662, which is also GMT-Master 2 Homage. And it snaps shut with a nice positive click, and the flip lock also snaps shut with a nice positive click. So very well executed glide lock style clasp. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal. Now, the negative of the sapphire crystal is there is no AR coating on the underside. And if I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see there is a lot of glare and highly reflective nature due to the mirror polished applied indices and also the mirror polished silver Mercedes hands. So this piece would really benefit from the use of clear AR coating on the underside. But however, they have applied blue tinted AR coating to the underside of the Cyclops magnifier. Now, if I tilt it at an oblique angle, you can see there is a blue tint to the Cyclops magnifier. So it's a shame that they didn't also use AR coating on the underside of the crystal. Just the Cyclops has AR coating only. I think it would have looked better had they used clear AR coating rather than blue AR coating on the underside of the Cyclops, because one can see the blue tint of it when one tilts it, but it does work very well, and it does improve the legibility of the date complication, as you can see. The dial layout follows the classic Rolex Maxi dial layout, and it is very similar to the GMT-Master 2 dial. and the symmetry is excellent, the legibility is excellent of the applied indices. Proportions of the Mercedes hands are correct, and this is something that often Chinese low-tier brands get incorrect. The hands are too short, but if you look at the minute hand, you can see it's long enough, and also the GMT hour hand is well finished. I like the contrasting blue to it, and it really is very well made. So very well executed, legibility is good. Now with regards to the text on the dial, I think it would have looked better had they deleted Aimimo design, the brand logo, and just had the brand emblem at 12. Alternatively, they could have reduced the proportions, the scale of the Arial fonts, which is bold. I think that they should have made the text smaller and also made the emblems smaller, because I think they're oversized for the dial at 12 o'clock. However, the printing is good quality and it is very well laid out. Now, just the right amount of information at the 6 o'clock position, because we have GMT automatic water resistant and 10 bar / 100 meters. I think they could have deleted the water resistant to reduce one line of text, but the printing is very good quality. With regards to the crown, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, coin edge finished, no sharp edges, no burrs. Mirror polished dome cap to it. Now, this is clearly a cost-cutting measure. They could have engraved or embossed the Aimimo design brand emblem, and I think that would have enhanced the crown. But however, it is finished to a good standard. So let's test the crown execution. Very smooth. It feels very similar to the screw-down crown used on Pagani design watches, such as the 1661 and 1662, which I'm sure you're familiar with. So, in the first position, it's the manual wind position, and one can manually wind the Pearl DG5833 GMT to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. One can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up, so it feels smooth, good firm resistance to it. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. Now, if you look at the date window closely, when I rotate it clockwise, you can see the quick set complication works well, as one would expect. Nice positive click when clicking over to the next day of the month. So the GMT hour hand is driven by the date complication, the date wheel. So when rotating it in the date setting position anti-clockwise, it has the effect of a quick set on the GMT hour hand. As you can see, one can rotate it through the 12 hours. So pulling it out to the second click position on the crown is the time setting position. Firm resistance to the caliber DG5833 GMT. I would describe it as firmer than a Seiko NH35A, which you may be familiar with, and it feels smooth, although it has firm resistance, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, no backplay. So one can also move the GMT hour hand by the time setting position, as you can see, both clockwise and anti-clockwise, as an alternative to rotating the GMT hour hand independently using the quick set complication. So very good to have that option, and it works very well. The alignment of the GMT hour hand works very well when cycling through the 24 hours. So it has hacking. As you can see, I've now hacked the movement and stopped the second hand dead, so one can set the time precisely to the second. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So I'll just test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup, very good interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel screw down crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. The screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable, and I can feel the compression of the O-ring inside the crown and also the O-ring inside the crown tube, so I'm absolutely confident this would provide a very good hermetic seal to 100 meters. So screw down crown execution is very good. Right, so let's discuss the bezel action. Now, as you can see, looking at the Lume's triangle on the ceramic bezel insert, you can see it's slightly to the left of the 12 o'clock index on the dial, so the alignment is slightly incorrect, and I'll demonstrate that. I'll test it a couple of times. Nice slight resistance to it. It's got loud audible clicks, which sound very satisfying. It feels smooth, very similar resistance to a Pagani design PD1661 or alternatively 1662, if you're familiar with those pieces. It's got that characteristic light bezel action. No lateral side-to-side play, which is good, but however, we do have some back play. If you look at the triangle, you can see there is 2 clicks of back play, and I'll just check it in all 4 quarters. We've got back play there, back play there, back play there, and also back play there. So There is 2 clicks of backplay all the way through the 360 degrees, which is disappointing. Now, I'll just check the alignment a couple of times because the triangle is slightly to the left. Now, as you can see, I'm now at the click before the 12 o'clock, so I'm going to rotate it anti-clockwise by 1 more click, and that should align it, but there isn't a click at 12. The next click is too far to the left, as you can see, so the bezel insert is misaligned. I'm just going to check it one more time. Right, so that's the click before the 12 o'clock, as you can see. So we're too far to the right. Bringing it up to the next click should be perfectly aligned. There is no click there. The next click is too far to the left. And even with the back play, one cannot get the Lume's triangle to align perfectly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial, as you can see. The bezel insert is just 1 click or half a click anti-clockwise. So to rectify this, one would have to soak it in acetone, remove the bezel insert, put a new adhesive ring on the bezel and reset the insert to get the alignment correct. Now, it's a popular misconception that collectors have that watch reviewers like myself received cherry-picked examples of watches. The brands and the resellers send us cherry-picked examples with very high quality control. That isn't the case, and this piece proves that point, because if this were a cherry-picked example, Aimimo Design would have sent me one with a correctly aligned bezel insert, because naturally showing this is misaligned isn't going to help increase their sales. So as you can see, this isn't a cherry-picked example, and that dispels the myth. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. This has actually exceeded my expectations. It's a pleasant surprise to see that Aimimo Design have used BGW9 Super Lume Nova. Good colour match between the blue tone of the BGW9 on the ceramic bezel insert, the applied indices, and also the Mercedes hands. This is clearly 5 to 6 layers of BGW9 on the applied indices and the hands, and they deserve full credit because they could have cut production costs by using only 2 to 3 layers, and therefore the hands and the indices wouldn't glow as brightly. They've also done a good job of inlaying the BGW9 into the engraved Arabic numerals and the hour ticks on the ceramic bezel insert. So the Lume is glowing brightly, and it will continue to glow for a good length of time. This is definitely better quality BGW9 Super Lume Nova than the Luminova used on the Pagani Design PD1662, for example. And it's very impressive. It's very unusual to get BGW9 on a watch in the low tier at only €109. It's very strong specification. I like the fact that the black ceramic bezel insert is fully lumed, and as I've discussed, the other version of this watch doesn't have it on the Batman version, the blue and black ceramic, so that's something to bear in mind. I think the fully lumed Arabic numerals are very good, and it's still continuing to glow for a good length of time. On the dial and hands, I'm very impressed with the performance, so Aimimo Design deserve credit for this. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, this oyster style bracelet does come with a lot of links in it. It's a very long bracelet, and I've actually sized it. I've removed 2 full links from the bracelet to get my preferred fit, and as you'll know from my previous reviews, I like to size my bracelets loose using the correct sizing method, which is being able to slide an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp at all times, because that allows for wrist expansion. So it comes with a very long bracelet, 2 additional links removed. I've now got the perfect fit, and I've got the glide lock style clasp in the centre of the wrist. Beautiful lustre to the glide lock style clasp and beautiful lustre to the oyster style bracelet, as you can see. So the proportions of this piece are excellent. 40mm case, and we've got a 47.4mm lug-to-lug measurement. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be the sweet spot. That is the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. So at 47.4, it's very close to the perfect 48mm lug-to-lug. The tape on the oyster style bracelet is excellent. 20mm down to 16 is perfection, and the proportions of the glide lock style clasp are also very good. Very well balanced piece, very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. With all the links in the bracelet, it is 156 grams, which is comfortable, but it also gives a feeling of wrist presence and heft. So it feels like a quality piece, feels very well balanced, very comfortable to wear, and very similar proportions to the Rolex GMT-Master 2, which this is an homage to. So I really like it. I think they've got the proportions perfect. And the other thing I like about it is it's 13.4 millimeters thick. So it's easily going to slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So very good proportions, very comfortable. The oyster style bracelet balances the head of the piece very well. And they've done an excellent job with the ceramic bezel inserts being fully inlaid with BGW9, because in daylight conditions you can see the BGW9 looks white, it's clearly legible, and the quality of the inlay of the BGW9 in the Arabic numerals and the hour ticks is very good. So very well executed bezel, just a shame that it's got slight anti-clockwise misalignment. Right, so I'll show you the case back because it's also very well executed. Screw down stainless steel case back, made from 316L grade. Similar design to the Rolex case back, as you can see. Coin edge finished, and the circumference is mirror polished, very nicely finished. And longitudinal brush satin finishing to the centre section. Now they could have left it sterile, but to add interest to the case back, they have engraved it to a higher standard with the Aimimo design brand emblem and also the logo. And we also have 316L stainless steel GMT and the reference number, which is AD8169. So the quality of the engraving is very good, and the quality of the mirror polishing and the brush satin finishing is also good. The coin edge finishing is also done to high standard, no sharp edges, no burrs, and I really like it. The solid end links are a good tight fit to the case. Underside of the case is well finished. No sharp edges, no burrs to the case. And I want to give due credit to Aimimo design because the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece is excellent. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, and we've also got brush satin finishing done to high standard on the tops of the lugs. The solid end links are a good tight fit to the case. Now, minor criticism is there is some play in the end link of the bracelet, both up and down play and lateral side to side play. So there is room for improvement on the fit of the bracelet to the end link. And also there is some play in the screw pins in the bracelet, as you can see. But I would describe it as very similar quality to a Pagani design oyster style bracelet used on the 1662 and the 1661. The luster to the 316L grade stainless steel is very good. The brush satin finishing is done to a high standard, and the mirror polishing to the flanks is also done to a high standard, and it's good to see push pins rather than it's good to see screw pins rather than push pins, which are a cost-cutting measure. So bracelet is good, articulates very well, and it doesn't have any stiff links, it doesn't kink, and it's not a sloppy bracelet either which rattles, although there is some play in the links. But one has to expect some cost-cutting measures within the low tier. This is €109, and I think the bracelet is good. The clasp is something I really like about this piece because although it's not as smooth as a Rolex glide lock, one isn't going to get that at this price point, it is actually superior to the glide lock style clasp I reviewed on the Blyger PA21 Explorer. And it's very unusual to see a glide lock clasp at this price point at €109. The build quality, the finishing and the execution of it are all very good, and it does work very well. It deploys with a nice positive click. It moves up and down reasonably smoothly. Now it's not as silky smooth as a Rolex glide lock because the Rolex glide lock uses two Teflon pads on the glide lock, and the Teflon is very low friction, and therefore one gets this silky smooth feeling, far smoother than stainless steel to stainless steel on the sliders. But of course it's not viable to use Teflon pads on this glide lock because that would significantly increase the production cost. So what we've got here is more friction because we've got 316L grade stainless steel sliding against 316L grade stainless steel. So it doesn't feel as silky smooth, but however the tolerances are definitely tighter, so the build quality is definitely better than on the Blyger PA21 Explorer, which has a glide lock style clasp. I'll show you the underside, as you can see. So the design is exactly the same. The only difference between this and a Rolex glide lock is the absence of the Teflon pads on the sliders. But the quality is good. I like the fact it's got a nice positive click when deploying it and pushing it back in to the body. It's got a nice positive click as well. It works very well. Really like it, and this is something I've often thought I would like to see Pagani Design introduce on all their watches, including the 1661 and 1662, a glide lock style clasp. And Aimimo Design really deserve full credit because it's strong specification at this price point and it works very well. Definitely better quality than on the Blyger PA21, and I like it, so I think that's it's something that Pagani Design should be using. Right, so let's discuss the movement used. The movement used is the Pearl DG5833 GMT, which is an automatic. Now, personally, I prefer the Hangzhou 6460, which is another alternative often used within the low tier. The Pearl DG5833 GMT is also used in the Pagani Design PD1662. So it's a well-proven movement, and I would describe the reliability as variable. It's made by Guangzhou Five Goats Watch Company Limited in Guangzhou in Guangdong province in China, and it's used by several Chinese brands including Pagani Design and Aimimo Design. Now, it has 21 joules. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. It has hand binding and hacking, which is used for complications, and also a quickset complication, which I've demonstrated. The stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day, so the same as the Seiko NH35A, a rather wide accuracy range. This one is running consistently at +12 seconds per day, so it's within the -20 to +40 seconds stated accuracy, but +12 isn't very impressive. There is room for improvement on the regulation, but however, it's the luck of the draw with a Pearl DG5833 GMT, whether one gets an accurate or inaccurate one. +12 is typical for what one would expect. Now, in terms of reliability, that is the main negative of the Pearl DG5833 GMT, because it's variable. It really is the luck of the draw whether one gets a good or bad one. If one gets a good one from the factory, they can last for years, and they are very solid and reliable, a good workhorse GMT movement. However, if one gets a bad one, they don't give any warning and they fail, and really that is the risk one takes with a DG5833. Same applies to the PD1662 because that uses the same movements. It's the luck of the draw whether one gets a well-regulated one or a poorly regulated one. The main reason for that is they are made by Guangzhou Five Goat Watch Company Limited, and the quality control, the materials and the build quality vary widely, both good and bad. It really is 50-50 whether one gets a good or bad one. And this is why I prefer the Hangzhou 6460, because it's a more expensive automatic GMT, but however the reliability, the build quality, the quality control and the materials are all of a higher grade. But of course it's significantly more expensive, which is why brands like Pagani Design and Aimimo Design are using the less expensive option of the Pearl DG5833 rather than the Hangzhou 6460. So something to consider. The movement isn't particularly accurate, and also the reliability is variable. It can be good or it can be bad. But other than that, it is a good solid movement, and this one is working very well. I've demonstrated the GMT hour hand working of the quickset complication, and also it works independently of the minute and hour hand, and also one can use the quickset GMT hour complication. So it works as one would expect. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So €109 is the price point of this piece. Difficult to evaluate it because we have some positives and we also have some negatives. To get BGW9 Superluminova on the dial hands and bezel inserts at this price point is strong specification. To get a glide lock style clasp at this price point is also strong specification, but however we also have some cost cutting measures, the lack of AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal, and of course we've got the sterile crown and also sterile glide lock clasp. So these are cost cutting measures. So difficult to weigh it up, positives and negatives. The main negative to the piece is the backplate in the bezel and also the misalignment of the bezel insert. The triangle is anti-clockwise by half a click to the left. So there is room for improvement on the bezel. Now, I would describe the quality as excellent, bearing in mind the specification. BGW9 and the glide lock clasp is excellent quality. But the value, I would say, is okay, for the reason that I can't say it's good value or good quality. I can't say it's good value or excellent value because of the back plate in the bezel, as you can see, and also the alignment, which is incorrect, too far to the left. So if Aimimo design improved the quality of the bezel execution, then yes, it becomes excellent quality and excellent value at €109. It's a better watch than the PD1662, and I think these are the two watches you're going to be comparing if you're considering buying a GMT-Master 2 Homage within the low tier. The 1662 and this AD8169-2 are the two considerations. This is better specification than the Pagani design because we've got BGW9, which is better. We've got a fully loomed ceramic bezel insert. And my favourite aspect is the use of the glide lock clasp, which does work very well. So these are all better than the Pagani design. However, it has the same problem as the Pagani design PD1662, which is poor bezel execution. So for that reason, I can't recommend the watch. The bezel execution disappoints, but however, I think it may be worth purchasing and removing the bezel insert and resetting it, because then the alignment would be correct and it would become an excellent watch. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Aimimo design AD8169-2. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.